Hello, I'm Shawn, and I do love a good cup of coffee. In fact, I love an excellent cup of coffee. That's why I bought a new coffee maker. The old machine just wasn't up to my standards. That's why I'm happy to say that there's a new breed of coffee maker out there, an automatic drip machine that emulates the manual pour-over technique loved by so many coffee aficionados. This machine is the Cuisinart model CPO-850 PurePrecision Pour-Over automatic coffee machine. The CPO-850 is the thermal carafe version. There's also a CPO-800 model, which is the same machine with a glass carafe. Purely a matter of preference. I went with the thermal. The machine is one of a handful that are approved and certified by the Specialty Coffee Association of America, SCAA. SCAA sets forth very strict criteria for how a coffee maker should prepare your coffee. The temperature is of critical importance in order to get proper extraction. If the coffee's too hot, the water's too hot, you're going to get bitter elements that don't belong there. If the coffee's too cool, you're going to under extract your beans. So it's absolutely critical that the temperature is correct, somewhere between 196 degrees and 204 degrees Fahrenheit. But that's not it. That's not all. The amount of time the hot water is in contact with the grounds is also very important. Too long a contact, again, you're over extracting the beans. Another thing that sets these machines apart is that they allow the coffee to bloom. That is, they pre-wet the grounds and allow it to sort of swell up, and then when they're ready, the brew cycle begins. Water is poured through at the precise temperature and at the proper amount of time, and there you get what tastes very much like a handmade pour-over coffee. That's done with the machine. Let's try it out. Let's see. I think you're going to like it. So we're going to do this according to the instructions today. Of course, you can do this however you like. The amount of water, the amount of beans, the specific grind that you like. Whether you use a number 4 paper cone filter or a gold tone filter, or the included laser etched stainless steel filter basket. You'll notice it looks a little different than the gold tone filters you're probably used to seeing. It's precisely laser drilled to give you just the right pattern. Now I find this is a little bit larger of a pour than you get with some of the gold tone filters, so you're going to get a little bit more sediment. Of course, if you don't like sediment, you can either go with a larger grind, say for example a French press grind, or you could go with the number 4 paper cone filters. If you do that, I urge you to try the unbleached filters. It's just a personal preference. Okay, so we're going to measure out 55 grams of coffee. That is approximately 9 scoops for 1 liter of water. Now you don't have to use a scale. I generally don't. Today I'm going to. Let's see if we can get about 55 grams in here. Should be around 9 scoops. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. That's 56 grams. Pretty close. $55 grams. Now let's grind it up. I'm going to use a grind somewhere in between a French press and an automatic drip grind. Now, if you're really into coffee, and I'm guessing you are if you're buying this machine and watching this video, you're going to want to have your own grinder, because grinding the beans fresh is really the only way to go to get the best coffee. You need good beans, freshly ground, and you need good water. So I use the Breville Smart Grinder Pro coffee grinder, but there are so many others. I used to use the Compresso Infinity, but since I like espresso and I sometimes buy dark oily beans, doing such a fine grind was killing my machines. I went through a few of them, maybe 1 or 2 a year. So instead of continually buying the same machine over again, which is a perfectly serviceable machine for, say, a French press or drip grind, if you're wanting to do an espresso grind or a Turkish grind, which is much finer, especially if you're using dark roasted oily beans, you're going to need something a bit more robust. About the best grinder you could find in this price range, in the round $200 and below price range, is the Australian-made Breville Smart Grinder Pro. But of course, Baratza makes some wonderful grinders. Cuisinart makes a good grinder. Boden makes an excellent grinder for about $100. Let's grind our coffee. I love that smell of fresh ground coffee as it permeates the house. It makes the house seem more like a home. And in the morning, what's better than waking up to that smell? Let's go a little more. That's probably about right. Let's see. Nope. Don't have my grinder set quite right. I need to adjust the time on the grind. That should do it. There we go. There was an extra scoop of beans already in the grinder. So now we're at 55 grams. Now, in reality, I'm not usually this picky about the exact measurement of coffee and the exact measurement of water. But today, we're going to play by the rules. Okay, 1 liter of water. These coffee makers, this is an 8-cup coffee maker. It's got a thermal carafe, which looks about the size of my old 11-cup Cuisinart coffee maker, because it's double wall insulated. Inside, it only holds 8 cups. And when they say 8 cups, they're not talking 8 fluid ounce US cups of water. A cup of coffee is generally about 5 ounces, sometimes 6 ounces. In the US, it's often 6 ounces. In Europe, it's generally 5. So an 8-cup capacity coffee maker is really about 40 US fluid ounces, which is about the right size pot to make. Anything bigger than that, and you're not going to stick in that time criteria, and you're going to get slightly over extracted coffee. Okay, so the thermal carafe, I like it. It's very well designed. Now, with any thermal carafe, if you pour it, you may get some spilling, but generally, if I pour it carefully, not too fast, it doesn't usually spill. It doesn't usually drip. And also, Cuisinart has designed a lid that has a sort of a plug in here that's held down by gravity and then floated up when the water drips in it. So it keeps it sealed as best it can so your coffee stays warm. A lot of people would recommend putting hot water in here and letting it sit there for a couple minutes and dumping it out just to warm the pot, but I'm not going to do that today. 1 liter of water. The markings are so easy to see on this machine. I love it. And that's 1 liter. Push the button. It'll heat the water very quickly with a thermoblock heater. Very quick. And then once the water's up to the exact temperature, it's going to spray just a little bit of water to wet the grounds. You hear that? And then, like I said before, it's going to allow it to bloom before starting the brew cycle. Now, I like my coffee made with freshly ground beans, but if you want to have your coffee ready for you first thing in the morning and you don't feel like getting up early to make it, one of the handy features that Cuisinart has included is a timer function, 24-hour timer. So you could set the clock to begin the brew at whatever time you want your coffee to begin brewing in the morning. A lot of coffee makers have this. Not all the SCAA certified machines do have that feature, because generally people who are buying this want to do everything by hand. But of course, if you really want to do it by hand, you're not going to buy a machine. You're going to buy like a Chemex or some other brand of carafe that you hand pour the water into and sit and wait and pour a little more and make sure you got the right temperature. This machine does all that for you. Nothing wrong with doing it by hand, but if you don't want to do that every morning, you want the convenience of an automatic drip coffee maker, but you want the quality of coffee that you get with a pour-over, this is your machine. Now you can hear that the brew cycle has begun. It doesn't take long, because that timing of water contact with the grounds is so critical to your extraction. You don't want more than, say, about 6 minutes of contact time, 4 to 6 minutes generally for a pot of coffee this size. So the brew cycle is pretty quick. Now, I did weigh the coffee grinds today with this nice little OXO kitchen scale, but I don't normally do that. I usually just scoop it in. But I do really like that scale. It comes in handy for a lot of things. It's good to have in the kitchen. So, useful kitchen tools. Of course, an espresso cappuccino maker. I'm shopping for a new one. I like the Australian models by Breville, but there are a number of other good ones out there as well. And of course, your everyday coffee maker and your grinder. Those are things that no coffee lover should be without. Other things you have in the kitchen are all almost secondary. Yes, my cast iron cookware, love it, but if I had to give something up, I'd give it up long before I'd give up my coffee grinder. But luckily, I don't have to. Alright, I smell that coffee. I wish you could smell it. It's just wonderful. I'm using good water. The water here is pretty good out of the tap, but I use a water filter anyway. Get that chlorine out of there. Who needs chlorine in your coffee? I sure don't. Yeah, it's about 2/3 of the way done with the brew cycle, looking at the markings here. So it won't be long now. What else can I say about the Cuisinart PurePrecision Pour-Over model CPO-850? I think I've said it all. The real proof is in the pudding, as they say. That is, let's taste the coffee and see if it lives up to the hype. And we're going to hear a gentle little tone in just a moment, letting us know that the coffee's ready. If you remember Pavlov's experiments with dogs, the sound of that beep will get me drooling. The coffee's ready. Okay. Sounds like it's coming to an end. I see there's still a little water in there. So my question now I'm asking myself is, how am I going to drink this coffee? Am I going to drink it black? Am I going to add sugar? Maybe some half and half. A little bit of sugar and some half and half, I think. That sounds good. But I know coffee purists would point at me and say, how could you adulterate your beverage like that? Coffee should be drunk black. Well, to each his own. But I will say that this coffee comes out good enough to drink it black. My old DeLonghi coffee maker had the temperature all wrong. It would get up to temperature. In fact, it would get a little too hot, but it would take its time. So at the beginning of the brew cycle, the water wasn't nearly hot enough. So you get just a combination of burnt coffee and under-extracted coffee. It's just undrinkable. DeLonghi is probably the largest manufacturer of small appliances in Italy, but their coffee makers they sell here are made in China. Not that that's necessarily a bad thing. I don't know, I wouldn't be surprised if this was made in China, I'm not sure. But it sure is better than my DeLonghi was. Okay, there's that beep I was telling you about. It's very subtle. It's not loud like my old Italian machine that was made in China. Okay, let's see if this spills out when I pour. Look at that, no drips. Now if I poured more aggressively, perhaps I would get drips. And of course with the design of these, when you get to the last bit at the bottom, you have to really turn the thing upside down to get every drop of coffee out of there. But to be honest, with that laser etched stainless steel metal filter, you're going to get a lot of sediment that you may not want in your cup of coffee. And the feature of retaining the last little bit of coffee in the carafe actually keeps that sediment in the carafe and instead of in your cup. Okay, let's try it. Oh, that's a good cup of coffee. Well, thank you for sharing this experience with me. Thanks for watching my video. I know 20 minutes long, it's a long time to watch a guy make a pot of coffee, but I do appreciate your support. Until next time, ciao.